When a sitting attorney general gets personally called out by name in a Truth Social post, and the order is to prosecute the president's enemies, that's not transparency. That's tyranny with a tweet. Watch what happens when Senator Klobuchar calls Pam Bondi out point blank.
At your nomination hearing, I specifically asked you to provide assurance to every member of this committee that the Justice Department will only follow the facts and the law, and the White House will play no role in the cases investigated or brought. You stated in response, this was you, politics will not play a part in my decisions. And you also said the Justice Department must be independent and must act independently. Do you believe that you have upheld that commitment?
I absolutely have upheld that commitment, Senator. I pledged that I would end the weaponization also of the Justice Department, and that America would once again have a one-tier system of justice for all. And that is what we are doing in this country.
We saw this with the president directing an investigation prosecution of Chris Krebs, the former head of cybersecurity, Lisa Cook, who is a current governor of the Federal Reserve, Director Comey. And the president, and I know you have said that you will not discuss discussions you've had with the president about Comey. Is that correct? That you won't testify here about that? Because I was going to ask you if you received advice, instruction, or request from anyone at the White House to direct the department to engage in any investigations, prosecutorial actions, including decisions not to investigate or prosecute anyone.
I'm not going to discuss any conversations.
But then how about the Truth Social post on September 20th, 2025, in which the president said, we can't delay any longer, Pam, using your name, not bringing criminal charges, are killing our reputation, his words, and credibility. And then goes on to tell you to prosecute a member of this committee, to prosecute the Attorney General of New York, and to prosecute James Comey. Do you consider that a directive to the Justice Department?
Senator Klobuchar, President Trump is the most transparent president in American history. And I don't think he said anything that he hasn't said for years.
Okay, it has been reported that you initially pushed back against requests by senior Trump administration officials to push out or fire the acting U.S. Attorney in Virginia, Eric Siebert, who's a conservative Republican, who made the decision that the evidence was not there to prosecute Comey. What made you change your opinion?
I am not going to discuss personnel decisions.
Okay. Is it true that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against former Director Comey?
I am not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, one of the most liberal grand juries in the country.
Okay, let's go on to other firings or terminations. Last week, the Justice Department fired at least 2 senior attorneys in the Eastern District of Virginia, including the office's national security chief, Michael Benary. It is reported that his firing came following criticism from a right-wing social media commentator who wrote, "One can only assume he was part of the internal resistance in the Comey indictment." In fact, he did not work on the Comey case. Instead, he was working on pursuing justice for service members killed in Afghanistan. How does firing a 20-year national security prosecutor enhance public safety?
Senator Klobuchar, I'm not going to discuss personnel decisions, but the personnel issue that I'm having right now is that all of my agents, all of my lawyers are working. My agents are on the street working without a paycheck because your party voted to shut down the federal government.
Unfortunately, the House isn't even back here. They're 18 days off the job to even meet with us to come up with a resolution that we would like to discuss with them about saving people's health care. Let's move on to the Antitrust Division. Did you authorize your chief of staff to overrule top officials in the Antitrust Division to settle the challenge to the Hewlett-Packard Enterprises Juniper Networks merger?
Senator Gail Slater runs my antitrust unit, and she is doing an excellent job on many, many cases. As you know, that is a pending case.
Okay.
In any merger, just to clarify, in any merger, Senator, there is a deal struck with our office and with the corporations involved, but then that also goes to a court to certify in any merger. In any merger, it's a multi-step process.
Okay, I
and
will
that
ask some
process
further
is still pending,
questions
Senator
about
Klobuchar.
antitrust. I just had one other thing. DOJ can now take the extraordinary step of subpoenaing
expired.
journalists. Has the Justice Department issued any subpoenas to journalists under the updated guidance?
Time.
What we just witnessed between Senator Amy Klobuchar and Attorney General Pam Bondi wasn't just another tense back and forth in a Senate hearing. It was a microcosm of the struggle for the soul of American justice. It was a test of whether truth and independence can still exist inside a system that's been bent and bruised by political power. Let's unpack this carefully. Klobuchar began with a question that should have been simple, a conversation about gun reform. She reminded Bondi of her past stance in Florida when, after the horrific Parkland school shooting, Bondi defended a law that raised the minimum age for purchasing firearms from 18 to 21. It was a moment when she had actually stood up to the NRA and defended a reform meant to protect children. Klobuchar wasn't trying to trap her. She was inviting her to find common ground, to admit that sensible gun laws can save lives. But even here, Bondi retreated behind the familiar shield of pending litigation. That line has become almost symbolic of this new brand of political denial, where leaders avoid moral clarity by hiding behind technicalities. Klobuchar's question wasn't about a specific case. It was about principle, and Bondi couldn't even meet her halfway. Then Klobuchar pivoted to the issue that made this exchange truly consequential, Trump's Truth Social post. A post in which the former president directly addressed Bondi by name and demanded that she prosecute his political enemies, from former FBI Director James Comey to the New York Attorney General to members of Congress. Think about that for a moment. A former president publicly calling on the Attorney General to prosecute his rivals. This isn't normal. It's not tough politics. It's the kind of behavior we usually condemn in authoritarian regimes, when the head of state uses law enforcement as a weapon to silence critics and protect allies. And here's the striking part. Klobuchar didn't raise her voice. She didn't grandstand. She simply asked Bondi whether she considered that post a directive to the Department of Justice, whether she recognized the danger in it, whether she understood that independence means saying no to political pressure, even when it comes from your own boss. And Bondi's response? She called Trump the most transparent president in American history. She brushed it off, as if that post was just business as usual. But it's not. What Bondi's answer revealed, or perhaps confirmed, is a troubling acceptance of political interference in law enforcement. It's the quiet normalization of something deeply corrosive, because once the Justice Department becomes an arm of the president's political will, the rule of law is gone. It's replaced by loyalty tests, retribution, and fear. Klobuchar's questioning wasn't just about Bondi's actions. It was about accountability itself, about whether anyone in this administration is willing to stand up to power and defend the idea that justice must serve the people, not the president. She also touched on something that goes beyond politics, a truth about democracy itself. When our leaders refuse to answer basic questions, when they hide behind procedure to avoid responsibility, democracy doesn't die in a single moment. It erodes slowly. Each non-answer, each evasion, each shrug at corruption chips away at public trust. And what makes Klobuchar's approach so effective is her restraint. She doesn't resort to theatrics or outrage. She simply exposes the hollowness behind Bondi's words by contrasting them with fact, history, and logic. It's the kind of questioning that reminds us why congressional oversight matters, because without it, power answers to no one. For viewers watching this, the lesson goes beyond a single hearing or a single official. It's a reminder of why civic vigilance matters, why transparency, truth, and accountability can't just be buzzwords. They are the foundations that hold this democracy together. This wasn't just Klobuchar versus Bondi. It was democracy versus decay, independence versus obedience, truth versus convenience. And if we, the public, stop paying attention, if we let political leaders treat justice as a personal weapon, we risk losing something far greater than one debate. we risk losing the very idea that no one, not even a president, is above the law. So, if you care about that principle, if you believe the Justice Department should serve justice, not politics, stay engaged, stay informed, share this video, subscribe to Liberal Lens, because democracy doesn't defend itself. It depends on all of us paying attention, asking questions, and refusing to look away.